very back of a creek, there's two things I throw. I'll get to the Squarebill here in a minute, but when I first pull in these places, I like to start with the Flashin Vibe. This is a 3/4 ounce rattle bait, and it's in about a 1/2 ounce profile body. And the reason, what I really like about this trap being a 3/4 is I can fish it a little deeper in these ditches. Like right here, I'm in 8 foot of water, and I mean, Squarebill doesn't get down that deep, but with this Flashin Vibe here being a 3/4 ounce, it gets down pretty deep, you know, deeper than like say a 1/2 ounce, and I can reel it really fast to make these fish react to it out in the middles of these ditches. And the reason I start with it is because usually as you get in the backs of these creeks, you'll have some fish out here in the middles of these ditches. Just they'll be right in the middle of the ditch. I mean, sitting out here waiting on shad to come in or shad coming out. And then as I get further on back and start fishing isolated pieces of cover like wood or little channel swing rock banks, I'll pick up the Squarebill. But I always start with the Flashin Vibe first, and I'll make really long cast with it. I'm throwing it on a 7/7 heavy Phoenix feather, but you can see it's got a lot of, I mean, it's not like it's a real heavy action. I mean, it's real moderate. It's got a real good bend to it. Throwing on a 16-pound Yo-Zuri T7 fluorocarbon, and this here is a 7.3 Daiwa Zillion, and it's the highest speed Zillion they've got in, you know, the regular reel. They've got the new 10-1 out, but I throw it on the 7.3. I throw it on higher speed reel, and I can really cover water with it. I like to make really long casts with this bait here out in the middle of these ditches, and I fish it pretty fast. I mean, I'm not gonna slow down, but as I'm working at reeling that bait back, about every 3 to 4 seconds, I'll give it a couple, you know, just a couple snaps like that. It triggers extra bites for me. And as I get it back here close to the boat, I'll slow it down. But I just kind of fan cast all out in the middles of these places because you don't know exactly where they're gonna be in these ditches out here unless they come up blowing up. If they come up blowing up, then you'll know, you know exactly where they are. But they could really be anywhere once you get in that 8 to 10 foot zone where it's 8 to 10 foot all the way across the back of these ditches. They could really be anywhere. Most of the time they'll be posted up on like a lay down tree out here that you can't see, a hard spot down there in the middle of the ditch, a row of stumps, and that's where the Garmin Live Scope really comes into play, because I look all over the place with it. As I'm going up through here, I'm constantly scanning around looking for anything that is obvious, you know, that they could be sitting around. But I fish it really fast. You know, the water is like 63, 64 degrees. They're not always out in these ditches far enough, deep enough where you can catch them on a lipless. Where this spot will really pick up is when that water gets down in the 50s and they start backing out of these places, and you're always gonna have some fish that hang back here all winter long. But when they really go to backing out and they get more out there in that 6 to 8 foot water, that's where that lipless really comes into play. But once I get back here like this, where it's a lot shallower, that's when I go to the HARDCORE Squarebill. Right there, same color, it's a citrus shad. I'm throwing this on a composite, an X10, a Phoenix composite X10, and it's real moderate. I mean, it just really lets them really engulf the bait and load up on it before you really pull into them. And you know, fish are usually swiping at the bait this time of year. They're not really wanting to commit real good, so it's big to throw it on a real moderate action rod. That way, when they come up to jump or they dig at the boat, they don't pull off. So I'm just gonna make casts with it up pretty close to the bank. And I still, even with the Squarebill, I kind of almost work it like a jerk bait, but a lot more reeling, obviously. But where the Squarebill really is good, there's two places back in these creeks and ditches where a Squarebill is really good, in my opinion. And it's on the channel side of the ditch and as far back as you can get. That's where the Squarebill really comes into play. Like right here is the channel. This is a channel swing side. This is where the channel swings in. I mean, the deepest water is right over here on this side. So I like to throw the Squarebill. I pick it up and throw it down the channel swing side, and then So you see I'm getting back here more to the back of this thing, or I'm running out of water to go. This is where your highest percentage is with the Squarebill, in my opinion. It's gonna be back here as far back as you can get with your boat. And I throw it, you know, I fish it back there in the back around stumps or laydowns or whatever may be back there to throw it around. And I'll really hold my rod up and I'll reel it just a little slower back here. A lot of these fish, I don't make very long casts. A lot of them, you'll actually watch them come up and get that Squarebill out there. You'll see them just flash it or just run up and get it. They'll be back here, you know, about as far as they can get is where they'll have the shad pushed up, or be hanging out back here waiting on shad to come in. And I always pay attention once I get back here in the very backs of these places. The one thing you really want to look for is you can start seeing the bottom a lot of times with your naked eye. And you'll be able to see like it gets real shallow and flat back here, like 1.5 foot, 2 foot deep. But you'll actually be able to see where that ditch is coming from. And you'll be able to see that it's over here more to the left or more to the right, or it's dead in the center. And that's where I really want to throw the Squarebill, is right in the middle of that gut, wherever it's running out of. Because usually they'll be sitting right in the middle of that ditch is where they'll be sitting. And that's where I'll throw that Squarebill. It's right in the middle of that little depression, because it'll just be a 1.5 to 2 foot depression. And they'll be sitting right in the middle of that thing. Next time you're out fall fishing on your lake, try it with that Flashin Vibe 65 and the HARDCORE Squarebill, the SR65. That's a great 1-2 punch. Start out near the mouths of these ditches with the lipless, and then as you get back here and it gets shallower and there's more wood and targets to throw out up around the bank, try the Squarebill. Hope it works for you and puts more fish in your boat.